tale a tale. Let it be told. On a morning when the courthouse fan pretended to be Harmat and Wind, a boy in a blue school shirt stood before the bench with a folder the color of fresh rain. The judge peered over reading glasses that had survived 3 governments and said, "Schoolboy, keep it short. We have real matters today." He meant fines, forms, and the stamp that thinks itself a gavel. The boy did not bend, did not swell. He opened his folder as calmly as mothers open windows. "Your lordship," he said, "I rise on a motion to dismiss for want of lawful instruction." His voice did not crack. The room did. The talking drum disguised as a scarred gavel block muttered, "Watch the word schoolboy. Watch the bench that will meet a better bench. Watch the child whose titles wear sneakers." Last market day, the city assembly swore in a new youth ombudsman, a roll carved from stubborn wood and public impatience. They chose Elikim Arma, age 17, known in the neighborhoods as Eli of the Blue Math Book, debater, librarian's assistant, fixer of neighbors' radios, child of a seamstress whose measuring tape had measured more men into suits than men had measured themselves into wisdom. He had helped write the listening order the High Court had just adopted for cases touching youth and public recording. Greet, ask, explain, assist. The memo had not reached every chamber. The morning docket had not learned to greet its own policy, and so the court called him Schoolboy. The court was correct and wrong at the same time. The bench was about to meet the bench of listening up. If this tale finds you outside a registry door, let the drum carry it farther. Like and oil the hinges, share with anyone who has been called schoolboy while carrying the syllabus, and comment with your city plus time so the next part finds your court before pride adjourns it. Listener, bring your ears and set them on the wooden pew the way we set spoons at a funeral, ready for whatever the pot has decided. The Amenfro Circuit Court is a building with secrets. Its pillars learn patience before painting. Its bailiff, y'all, knows who trembles by the sound of their shoes. Its clerk, Abigail, can type faster than most people can remember their names. And the Honorable Justice Mensa Baidu sits at a bench that believes wood is older than paper. On this morning, the docket was thick with ordinary trouble. Noise complaints from neighbors who forgot that music is not always joy. Petty thefts rehearsing larger sins. Traffic tickets written by men who argue with sunlight. Among them, Case 47, Republic vs. Elikim Arma. Charge, disorderly conduct. Translation, boy raised voice at a municipal library. Protest when the city announced a closing hour that behaved like a curfew. Some officers had tried to borrow respect with volume. Phones had lifted. The wind had taken minutes. The morning brought them to woods. "Name?" asked the clerk. "Elikim Arma," the boy answered, adjusting his collar the way one adjusts a sentence. His school tie was tucked into his shirt pocket because the day preferred verbs to ornaments. "Counsel?" asked the judge, eyes scanning for a grown-up to translate the boy's audacity into paragraphs. "Self-represented," Elikim said, bowing. "Ash public defender." Stood ready nearby, nodding. She had advised him at dawn and had recognized in his notes a person who does not drive at night without headlights. The funding prosecutor... Home, State Attorney Corcoran rose, efficient, crisp, righteous enough to be useful. "Your lordship," she began. The accused disrupted public order by shouting at a lawful police operation, refused to step back from a cordon, and inflamed the crowd by recording in the officers' faces. "Faces have no privacy in the lane of sunlight," the drum whispered. The room pretended not to hear. Elikim opened his blue folder. Inside, a copy of the city's Open Lens Guidelines 17B, the High Court's listening order, a map of the library steps with chalk lines, a USB with footage, reason card, introduce state reason, explain boundary, assist, laminated, corners rounded by use. He laid them out like a midwife laying out clean cloth. "With respect," he said, "I rise on a motion to dismiss and for want of lawful instruction and for viewpoint discrimination. Contrary to our public recording policy, there was no unlawful order to disobey. There was only offense taken by an officer at a camera. Justice Mensa Baidu leaned back. The ceiling fan continued faking seasons. Schoolboy, he said again, softer, like a habit resisting new shoes. We don't try policy here. We try cases. Elikim bowed. Then let us try this one with the policy it requires, he said. The policy you ain't signed last Friday when your brother on the High Court adopted the listening order for matters concerning youth and public recording. He slid the order forward. The seal winked as if a friend had passed a note in class. The prosecutor bristled. Your lordship, the accused is testifying from paper. From policy, corrected the boy. It promised to greet at me before it judged me. It has not yet arrived in this room. I have brought it, like a witness. The judge's lips found a smile that had not been scheduled. Proceed, he said, curiosity loosening his tie from the inside. Elikim projected the videos on a small screen the clerk had dusted for this century. The room watched. The library steps, the cordon chalked like a polite fence. Officers, Sergeant Ashere and Constable Nee announcing, keep the stairs clear. A teen voice, Elikim's answered, from where shall we watch our government if not from here? Phones panned. Sergeant Assar approached the lens. No filming in faces, he barked. The crowd murmured the democracy of disagreement. Adiono. Reason Cardane appeared in the frame, held steady. A voice, Elikim's again, calm. Sir, introduce Reason Boundary Assist. He recited the policy as one recites Psalms, not to annoy God, to remind people. Good afternoon, I'm Sergeant Asare. You may record from behind the tape for safety. Please do not block the stair. If you need a better angle, stand on the planter. The sergeant blinked, learned the line from his own tongue, and said it. The crowd obeyed. The operation continued. The noise dropped like a lesson choosing to sit. The video paused. The room breathed. State Attorney Korkor frowned not at the boy, but at the familiar smell of mischarge. She disliked losing. She liked fairness more. But there is a moment, she said, flipping pages, where you step forward, sir. She pointed. The frame jumped. Elikim taking one step over a chalk line not yet chalked at that second. Cordon violated, she argued, proud of a sentence that was at least honest. Elikim nodded. I did move one step. I was to prevent a head child now from being pushed by the unmarked crowd surge. Then I stepped back. The video shows the intent on the result. No obstruction, no incitement. If the state insists, we can discuss necessity defense. He said it lightly, like a boy reminding a teacher the homework was assigned on a holiday. Where did you learn all this? The judge asked before he remembered benches shouldn't ask children questions they aren't ready to answer. In the library. You're closing early, Elikim replied. A laugh traveled the pews, shook hands with the registry door, returned stronger. Justice Mensa Baidu looked at the order again. How? Listening order. He remembered the meeting where the High Court had sighed and signed. He had said, we cannot keep conjuring contempt from misunderstanding. He had meant it. Paper is a son who leaves home and writes once a year. Today the son had returned holding hands with a schoolboy. State? He asked the prosecutor. Korkor breathed in. She was good at pivoting when truth changed lanes. Your lordship, she said, the state withdraws the disorderly conduct charge. However, we seek a caution as to proximity in future recordings for safety. Elikim bowed. I accept a gentle caution that quotes the policy, not note ego, he said. I also ask for clear floor marks at future operations. The judge nodded. Petty officer in charge of court maintenance, he called. Chalk and yellow tape forward for the registry today. The petty officer blinked, saluted a job he had not expected to receive from heaven. The matter seemed complete, like a story with enough stew. But the drum in the gavel block coughed once more. Justice Mensa Baidu peered down. You insisted on keeping it short as schoolboy, he said, eyes now amused at his own earlier arrogance. Yet here we are, shorter than pride usually allows. Before you sit, tell the court your full name and, I suppose, who taught you to bring FLIO policies like cattle to market. Elikim lifted the blue folder's last page. A letter with a solemn seal. He did not wave it like a flag. He laid it down as if placing a child to sleep. Elikem Kwamarma, he said. Youth Ombudsman for Amanfro, sworn last Saturday by Justice Abena Poku, tasked to audit public-facing procedures, including youth police operations and court interfaces when with youth. He turned the letter so the judge could read the signature. I am also the Shi community amicus to this circuit court under the new listening order, appointed to advise, unpaid, when cases intersect with youth recording and access. The room did not gasp. It inhaled a new climate. The prosecutor's eyebrows practiced new yoga. The clerk covered a grin with the back of her hand the way women cover laughter at meetings where they are not yet allowed to laugh full. The bailiff whispered, "Hey," with a respect usually reserved for funerals and footballers. The judge stood. Old Wood wondered if it should follow. He did not salute with military imitation. He placed a hand over the gavel block, the old drum, and nodded to the boy. Mr. Ombudsman, community amicus, he said, tasting each word like a reluctant man learning to love pepper. This court is not stunned, not by your title, but by your husmois of it. We will listen. He looked at the docket, then at the pews. We will adjourn for 10 minutes to write our apologies into policy. He banged the gavel lightly, as if not to wake an infant that had finally slept. The schoolboy returned to his seat. The bench remembered it had ears. A tale, let it be told. When courts adjourn, time doesn't stop. Nation policy stands up to stretch. In chambers, the air smelled of dust that had recently decided to behave. Justice Mensa Baidu sat, tie loosened by honesty. State Attorney Korkor joined, setting aside the instinct to win for the habit of repair. Public Defender Arabateta entered with the satisfied look of a person who has just seen her day feed itself. Clerk Abigail stood with a notepad. If policy was bread, she was knife. Bailiff Yaw guarded the door, shoulders learning a gentler width. Elikem stood respectfully to the side, neither swaggering nor shrinking. His blue shirt had learned to iron itself with composure. We will draft up local practice note. O's, the judge began. Listening implementation. We cannot wait for memos to breed. He looked at Elikem. Mr. Ombudsman, advise, briefly. Elikem stepped forward, produced a one-page mod from his folder. He had anticipated this room because he had rehearsed it in the library between math problems and the biographies of difficult men who learned to get out of the way of their own countries. There are 3 pillars, he said. Greeting, boundary, record. 1. Greeting. Court opens each session with a public reminder. Citizens may record from designated areas. No recording of witness and faces without permission. Minors are protected. 2. Boundary. Yellow tape marks filming zones. Ushers assist rather than confiscate. Any device seized must be receded. No viewing, deleting without consent or warrant. 3. Record a listening log kept by the clerk. Any complaint about filming or access is recorded with time, person, resolution. The judge tapped the paper. We will add consequences, not just for public, for staff. If a staff member violates, they will sit the bench of listening 1 hour and watch a training loop until their pride learns subtitles. He glanced up, smiling at his own inventiveness. Can we get a bench? Already carved, said the High Court administrator, who had been listening from the door with the vigilance of budgets. Our carpenter, Kwabena, owes us favors. Let it read, Elikem said. Listening is part of the verdict. Korkor murmured, tasting it. Spicy. Good. Public Defender Teddy raised a finger. Add a small apology writ. If we mischarge you on a policy, we should know. The court issues a written apology attached to the case file and sent to the person. Not if you felt we erred. Clerk Abigail scribbled in shorthand that looked like a flock of birds making sense to her alone. Done, she said. Bailiff Yaw cleared his throat. What about phones? That shout when they should whisper. People answer calls during proceedings. Elikem nodded. Phones on silent, rights not. Ushers offer Phone lockers for those who didn't eat self-control this morning. The judge laughed despite himself. He looked younger when he laughed, as if law were a cousin of play rather than its jealous uncle. They drafted, words put on overalls, not robes. The practice note became a short order signed by the judge, posted on the courtroom door, translated into Otwi, Ga, and Yewa, and laminated so that sudden rain would fail to dilute it. Clerk Abigail walked to the copier like a soldier marching bread to a hungry front. Anything else? The judge asked, tapping the gavel block absent-mindedly, as if petting an old dog who had learned not to bite poets. Yes, Elikum said quietly. Seating. Hey, the judge frowned. We have pews for mothers with children, Elikum said. A corner with their paper and crayons, a low, table. Justice does not need to borrow a baby's cry to find its pace. Korkor smiled, remembering her own worst day in court with a child strapped to her back like a secret. Approved, the judge said, not because he was merciful, because he was late. They returned to open court. Abigail Ray posted the order on the door with tape that respected carved wood. Yom marked the filming zones with yellow that would insult no eye and confuse no foot. The bench, not the judges, the new bench of listening, arrived under the gallery window. On his back, the woodcarver had already gouged deep. Listening is part of the verdict. The bench looked ready to carry arguments until they became apologies. Justice Mensa Baidu took the bench. This court, he announced, voice warm with the engine of reform, is under a new order of listening. Citizens may record from marked areas. Staff will assist. Witnesses' dignity is our boundary. Violations will sit. He gestured to the wooden newcomer. There! The gallery murmured the particular approval that courts enjoy when they make room for people without making less room for law. There remained the matter of Yeshion Fort Even's finish. Mr. Armour, the judge said, the state has withdrawn. The court cautions you gently to respect boundaries for safety. That caution is not mere muzzle, it is a rope. We hold together. Elikum bowed. I'll bind myself to the rope, he said. I asked leave to place in the record the reason card and the open lens on guideline. Granted, the judge said. Clerk, annex. A man at the back, the librarian, cheeks flushed with gratitude and dust, stood and raised 2 fingers. Your lordship, he requested, may we keep the court open for an hour after docket to hold a listening teach-in on recording and respect. The judge looked at the calendar, which had learned to be inflexible at the wrong moments. He looked at the bench. The bench looked back. Granted, he said, but not in my robe. I will sit on the video bench, that one, and learn what my own order looks like on other people's nails. The courtroom relaxed, the way a market relaxes when the first pepper sale of the day breaks the shyness of money. State Attorney Korkor leaned over to the public defender. We will lose fewer young people to contempt, she said. We will gain more to context. During the teaching, on phones, the policies shared air without fighting for oxygen. Ushers found practice the sentence. Good afternoon. You may record from here. Bailiff y'all practiced please until it sounded like a door opening. Clerk Abigail taught a half-dozen community journalists how to request records without insulting paper. Eliakim taught nothing. He hosted, which is sometimes a more dangerous verb. At one point, Justice Mensa Baidu sat on the pile bench of listening. Cameras, not rude, present, captured an older man reading the carved letters with his finger as if Braille could be carved for dignity itself. He did not smile for the photograph. He smiled for his mother, who had sold tomatoes to buy his first book and who had taught him to put his ear to the ground when trains were far. As the hour closed, a magistrate from a neighboring district entered. Curiosity disguised as a borrowed file. She saw the bench. Mensa, she teased later. Are you turning your court into a library? I am turning it into a village, he answered. Villages listen before they punish. Libraries teach villages how to remember. On the way out, the judge stopped by Eliakim. He did not pat the boy's shoulder. He has grandchildren. He knows how to respect posture. "Mr. Ombudsman," he said, "you returned me to my first year on the bench. The one where I believe paper is a map, not a fence." "Thank you." Elikem shook his head. "Sir," he answered, "the court taught today. I only carried the chalk." The drum in the gavel block purred, which is a sound wood makes when it recognizes its grandchildren. A tale, a tale. Let it be told. 2 weeks later, the city held open court day, the kind where people who normally fear would come to shake his hand. Stalls lined the courthouse lawn. Legal aid soup kitchen. Free advice, bring your own stubbornness. Records desk. Birth, marriage, land, grief. Youth wall. Paint your policy on canvas. The bench of listening are multiplied. One in the lobby, one under the neem tree, one in the juvenile wing. Each read, "Listening is part of the verdict." Children traced the letters with fingers that would one day sign paychecks or pardons. On the steps, Justice Mensa Baidu opened the day. No robe, trim shirt, honest sweat. "We have come," he said, "to practice. The country we hope paper is promising." He nodded toward the teen in a blue shirt, now with a small enamel pin that said "Ombuds" like a quiet flag. "We have been taught to listen by those we thought should only learn." A program unfolded like a well-folded kente. Bailiffs did role play where they forgot to shout. Ushers demonstrated how to guide a grandmother with dignity. Prosecutors acted out the difference between charge and chastise. Off to the side, public defender Tedder ran a workshop called "How to Talk to Paper Without Crying." Laughter paid for chairs. Midway, a delegation arrived from the Chief Justice's office. Not pompous, their shoes did not bully the grass. The registrar of the High Court, Madame Aquabina, stepped forward with a brown envelope that had decided to be important. "We bring," she announced, "a writ of thanks. We do not issue many. We are stingy with praise to keep it expensive." She unfolded parchment with seriousness. To Elikem Kwame Ahma, Youth Ombudsman of Amanfro, Community Amicus to the Circuit Court, for carrying the listening order on your head like water and refusing to spill. Your actions reduced to contempt and increased comprehension. Take this writ and keep it not in your pocket, pockets tear, but in your practice. She handed him the writ. The crowd clapped the way people clap when they didn't know applause could sound like homework. A blogger asked, "What is your real title?" or "Schoolboy?" The crowd chuckled, catching the echo of 2 weeks ago. Elikem lifted the writ. "Neighbor in chief," he said, "it is not on paper. It is in how we center rooms." "Add Rule 8H to your boats," shouted Auntie Della from the canteen tent, who fed law clerks and police with equal seasoning. "Feed before you fight." The crowd agreed on the poetry, if not the numbering. Then reality, which has a talent for testing reforms with exactly the wrong case, offered a Chado demonstration. A group of WEG students arrived with placards about school transport fees. Behind them, a cluster of plainclothes officers hovered like unassigned actors. A phone lifted too close, an elbow objected, a voice began to rise toward contempt. Before the old script could cast itself, ushers lifted yellow tape fine and reason cards rose like umbrellas. "Good afternoon," one usher said, body sideways to be less wall. "Record from here for safety. Please avoid filming no minors' faces. If you need a higher angle, stand on a bench. It is for listening, not sitting only." The crowd shifted into lanes. The temperature fell 2 degrees without the help of clouds. The police liaison read from the card like a man who had decided to let policy become his tongue. "We are here to protect passage, not to stop speech." A woman in a green suit, regional minister for youth, whispered to the judge, "This is theater." He nodded. "Yes, good theater." During a Q&A, a man in the back, a retired soldier with a voice that could still make room stand, asked, "What if someone abuses recording to bait?" Elikem held up the reason card and the listening log. "Tools are loyal to the hand that holds them," he said. "We answer bait with boundary and how example. And we not log. Logs make patterns confess." He showed the log entries for the past 2 weeks. A bailiff who forgot and then remembered, a camera raised too close and then stepped back, an apology issued and stapled to a file, paper finally doing honest arithmetic. The Chief Justice's registrar, Shu, spoke again. We announce a pilot in 3 districts. Community Amishi, like Mr. Arma, will sit monthly with court users committees to review listening logs and apology writs. We add a budget as like not for microphones or robes, but for benches. Because wood does what microphones cannot. It carries weight. A murmur of national budget jokes tugged at the tent. Then Justice Mensa Baidu did something cameras like because truth likes it first. He stepped down from the stage, stood before Elikim, and lifted his right hand in a civic salute. Palm open, finger steady, not rank to rank, service to service. Mr. Ombudsman, he said, voice thick with the pepper of humility. I salute your real title. Keeper of the listening. May my bench never again be higher than my ear. Phones caught it. Respect bending not to age, but to usefulness. The image would travel farther than any memo and would not need translation. The day thinned into late afternoon. Children colored the youth wall with pictures of benches sprouting ears like maize. A grandmother sat under the neem and told a bailiff how her first husband had taught her to heckle Parliament from her kitchen window. A clerk showed a boy how to find his father's name in a register that had once pretended to be shy. Auntie Della fed the judge too much jollof. The law ate and forgot how to scowl. As people packed, Clerk Abigail handed Elikum a small envelope. Inside, a public transit card, topped up for a year. From the Sea Friends of the Library, she said, for the boy who taught the court to read its own order. He tried to refuse in a way dutiful people do. She closed his fingers over it. Take! Ah, she said. Even griots pay transport. Evening arrived, lazy and certain. The neem tree shook a few leaves as if to bless the minutes. The bench of listening. Under the window caught the last light as if it were putting a candle on its own back to read by after everyone went home. Justice Mensa Baidu stood with his robe over his arm. He now wore it like a tool, not a throne. Mr. Arma, he said, will you come once a month to chambers and tell me what my ears missed? Only, Elikim said, if you come once a month to the library and tell the children what your hands learned. Our deal, said the judge, and because he is a man who honors contracts, he spat politely into his palm and offered it. The boy laughed, matched him, custom meeting policy, and finding they can sit under the same tree without arguing over shade. The drum in the gavel block, though far inside the building, heard what happened under the neem and tapped 3 times in echo. The courthouse, relieved of a little of its hauteur, exhaled. A tale, let it be told. The telling is finished. The listening way will continue the work. If you reached here, leave your footprint for the drum. Like so the bench stays oiled. Share with someone who works behind the counter, and comment with your City Plus time. So the next folktale finds your courthouse before old habits do.